Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Now, no doubt you've already seen these videos on these two Revelot watches, the new release, the Revelot Gentus. And bless him, Kevin sends me two watches usually, even with the last version where they had two sizes available, so we can look at some of the variations that are on offer. Now, even though Kevin has given me these two watches for free for my unadulterated, unfiltered, honest opinion, you know what, he does make us work for it, because there is a lot of information to go through. There's a lot of specifications and size options and color options and dial options. So I'll be going over to the website to show you that, guys, later. The first thing we're going to look at is, of course, the dimensions, the core specifications, what we have here, and of course the finishing, the build quality, which is by far the most singular important thing, and of course the price. But bear in mind, as I said, the early bird is in action. So if you instantly like the look of these, go ahead, check them out, because no doubt some of the colorways will be sold out. So I've got two different sizing options here. So we've got the 40mm and we've also got the 36mm. The 40mm comes in an automatic as well as a quartz option, which is a Swiss quartz, whereas the 36mm understandably only comes in the Swiss quartz option. So with that, let me give you an overview of the dimensions. 40mm, and that is only really from there to there. If we take in these ears of the case into consideration, it actually comes over to 42mm. And with the 36mm, it's not too far off the 36mm, because it's around 37mm at the ears measured by myself. You also have a thickness on the quartz one coming in at under 9mm, around 8.9, which is amazing to see. And a extremely compact lug-to-lug of just 40mm, but with those end links, because this is an integrated watch, integrated bracelet, we are just looking at around 43.5mm, which is incredible. So moving on back to the 40mm, when we take a look at thickness, this is slightly thicker, which is just around 12mm, because it uses the Seiko automatic movements. You've got the option of a Seiko NH35, the option of a Seiko NH70, depending on the variant you go for. Lug to lug is 45.5mm at the case. However, as I said, with those integrated end links, it does come up to just around 50mm. But I think it should wear still reasonably well on wrist or on smaller wrist sizes, because of course you can see those slopes on the case and how it kind of falls over. Now, with the specifications, as you expect from Revelot, you've got a full stainless steel case, you've got a sapphire crystal, you've got around 50 mils of water resistance, because you do have a screw down case back, however, just a push pull crown. Now, with the automatic version, you get the option of a see-through case back, which is mineral, but with the quartz, you get a solid case back. Both case backs are actually quite nice, the see-through one and of course the solid one as well. You've got Swiss C3 Super Luminova on parts of the dial. There's not a lot of it, but I will show you in a lume shot later on. And as mentioned, the integrated bracelet does come with multiple color options. You can have a full steel, a darkened steel, and also this bicolor variation that you see here. Now, I wanted to get the specifications and dimensions quickly out the way, because as I said at the start of the video, there's a lot for me to show you guys, because I've got two watches to show you. Now, with this particular style, we know what it's homaging, and they are open about it. They're trying to homage the Nautilus, which is why it's called the Revelot Gentus. Now, what I find about these designs, it's all about the finishing and how well they are done, because these watches are probably the most complex watches you can make, especially when we're looking at the case and the bracelet, because they've got just so many facets, so many beautiful angles, and if it's not done right, if it's rough or it's not finished correctly, and then this can easily come across as very cheap and tacky, which we see from a lot of the cheaper watch brands that try to do these designs. So it is very important that everything is done to a very high degree. Now, bear in mind that these watches are indeed prototype watches, so they may be not entirely perfect. You might have a few scratches or whatever that you might find, which is what Revelot has told us. Now, I want to look at the case finishing first and foremost, because there's a couple of different features on this case. When we go back to the Revelot Hex Mariner, which I still have in my collection, this is what I see from there. So they've gone for a similar thing which they did on the Hex Mariner. If you look at the unnecessary angles, right? Because you don't need to have all these angles there, but this is where credit is due to Revelot, because they have gone with them, which kind of adds another layer of complexity to the case, which also means you've got to be really good at making sure it is perfect, and it is. It's finished so well. You've got a fully brushed case. You can see vertical brushing along there. Like all those facets on there, I mean, it just must be a nightmare actually designing this and making sure that the factory that you've given this work to does a great job. Now the finishing on the A-face of these style of watches is usually coarse, which they followed through with this, and you can see the grain on there. And this is the rose gold version with the blue dial, as you can see, with the bi-color bracelet. Now when we turn the watch on its side, just pay attention to these polished highlights that you see just along the tips of those lugs, and a very important feature because I just feel it adds that touch of elegance to the watch, and it is extremely crisp. Even for a prototype model, they haven't let us down. Very sharp lines, extremely crisp, and while I say sharp, I mean that in the definition, because there's no way I can feel any sharpness to the actual case, which is, you know, another sign to look for when you are trying to assess how well made a watch is. So I'm impressed with the case. The case back is standard. You've got your brushing on there, and you can see the NH70. This also comes with the NH72, and as I said, the NH35. If you choose to go for the gear shade dial option or this translucent dial option, or I think you've got another one with the open heart, but I'm going to show you that, guys, later, as I said, as it gets very confusing very quickly. Now, moving on to the crown, you can see Revelot's logo. It's a well-made crown, nicely finished. It is a push-pull, which is okay, because obviously the movement in this is the NH70, so it doesn't have a date window or a date function, but it's very easy to use. It's not overly small. I think it's proportioned just right to tuck into those crown guards. Very nice level of brushing, and again, that polishing is of a high quality. And they have followed that through on the smaller model, the 36 or 37 millimeter, and you know, with it being stainless steel, you can just see that a bit more. You've got literally minimal glare, that coarse brushing, and the matching on the lugs just before that integrated slope of the bracelet does really match the same grain that you find on the bezel, of course, and you can see the polish highlight a lot better across the bezel, and of course on those edges of those lugs. So in hand, you do get that feeling. It really comes across really well, because as I said, there is no sharpness to the case. Now the bracelet itself, again, I find them edgy when I've seen these designs, but this one I can confirm there's no edginess. It's not overly edgy. There's some edges you can't get away from, which is, you know, the edges on the side there, but that's not something which you're going to feel or it's going to affect you on skin. The main thing what we can see on the links is just these bevels, and you can see the side bevel there, which has been fully brushed, polished along the side there. Just there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and I fully appreciate this. Now, just a bit of trivia or some fun facts for you guys. The bracelet itself has 14 individual facets, and these independent center H links have just 8 facets per link. So going back to that machining, going back to that level of quality we expect, and the more facets you include, the more different levels of finishing you include, you know, if it's not done right, it's a recipe for disaster. But this is done extremely well, considering it is just a prototype model. Moving on to the links, they are held together what I believe are split pins, or could be push pins, but when I size it up, I'll confirm later on. The clasp does have the logo on there, and we flip it open and it's a thicker butterfly clasp, so I don't mind this at all. You know, these do feel far more substantial than some of the cheaper butterfly clasps that you see. Fully brushed as well, solid mechanism, really nice and positive click. Now this particular one did not come with half links, however I think they are featured on the quartz one. So you can see smaller links, which are obviously necessary for better micro adjustments, because this does not have a clasp with those micro adjustments. And moving across, having a look at this 36 millimeter, just checking for consistency. Is it uniform across? It definitely is. And the beauty of these bracelets as well is, of course, the light play. That coarse brushing does a wonderful job of balancing the light off the bracelet. Great polishing and finishing. So I can confirm, you know, on both these models that they have succeeded in making this design, you know, acceptable, make it look and feel good in hand. A lot of the times they look better than they feel, but this one does actually feel incredible in hand. So hats off already to Revelot. You know, they are sticking to their design language as well, which is very present. Yeah, the finishing, guys, done extremely well, considering, you know, what could have gone wrong, and with just so much work to do on a case like this. Now let's look at the smaller details, the smaller features. So I've got the translucent dial on here, and the things that stand out on the dial is, Again, going back to the point of the finishing on the handset, and of course the hour markers. You can see the hour markers do have two types of finishing. You've got that linear coarse brushing across those numerals, which is a mixture of Roman numerals at the 3, 6, 9 and 12, and of course just slim batons in between. But you've got these polished edges or chamfers along the ends, and it's nicely done, extremely fine. Even on this prototype version, I can't see many defects with it. When we take a look at some of the close-ups, the finishing is extremely well done. This is a lot of work that's gone into this watch. These handsets are taken from the previous Admiral GMT, but they've been slightly more refined. You can see they're semi-skeletonized. You also have two types of finishing on this also. You've got that coarse brushing along the center where you've got the lume applied, and the edges are finely polished and beveled. So it's all about the micro detailing, guys. I always say this, and I am overwhelmed at the moment because I'm just seeing it everywhere where I expect to see it. The brushing on the hour markers does make them jump out in the light. It ensures the light bounces off the hour markers just on the A face, giving this watch an incredibly well made finish and look. Now we can see just a bit more detail when we take a look at the gear shade dial version. The pattern is amazing, right? Gear shade dials are, by themselves amazing enough, but when you've got such an intricate pattern, it's just another level. And you can see how deep that engraving is. It ensures every line, every diamond that you can see here. You can just see the whole pattern extremely well defined, very crisp as well. And the logo and the brand name is visible very nicely, because a lot of the times that can not come across as well due to the gear shape pattern behind it. Now with this particular one, and you'll find on a lot of the other color options that they've gone with darkened indices, so you've got this dark metallic look. Same finishing as well. It gives a similar effect to the previous rose gold indices that we looked at. Same finishing on the handset. The only difference that we can see here is that date window, and that date window is large. Just look at the date frame. It definitely allows you to see the level of detailing on this. It's so beautiful, and of course you went for different colors. They're all going to have a different effect, but just looking at just that detailing there is really nice, and the quality is very impressive. And it's even more impressive when we go to talk about the price of these watches, because they are a steal for what you get here. And I am shocked how Revelot can give us so many options, so many colors, different movement options, so many different dial options, and just so many different configurations, and still keep the price so low. It is mind-boggling, right? It is, especially that I'm trying to go into my own brand now, and we want to limit the amount of variation we have, because that does impact the cost. But this is just amazing to look at. Now let's go ahead, check out the lume on this watch, because both watches do have a bit of lume. Now, with regards to lume, as I said earlier, there isn't a lot of lume, but what's there is, I think, more than adequate for this style of watch. You can see the handset is really visible, and they've got dots on the chapter ring, which isn't that bright. But again, do I expect loads of lume from this watch? I really don't, but that is something they will improve on the production model. So I already mentioned about the immense levels of colorways on these watches, so let's head over to the website and take a quick look at them. So as I said, it's probably easier for me to show you the amount of colors and variations available with this Revelot Gentus, because it's just immense. I wouldn't be able to go through it just by talking you through it. So they've got 1 million different colors, roughly, give or take. And let's start off with what we have on the automatic version, because they do differ from the automatic 40mm to the Swiss Quartz 40mm and the Swiss Quartz 36mm. You've also got bicolor variants. You've also got rubber strap options and bracelet options. So let's look at the 40mm first. So we start off with the salmon steel automatic, which does look really nice. I always love that salmon dial, backed up with the gear shape pattern. It's incredible. Now with the automatic, what's separate here is that you've got 3 different dial variants, so which is the skeletonized dials, the gear shade dials, and also the aventurine. So a hell of a lot of variables from Revelot. So we've got the mint, also turquoise white, we've got aventurine rose gold, we've got aventurine steel, which is absolutely stunning. Then we've got the smoked skeleton. Then we've got the one I have in hand. We've got full blue. I think one of the coolest ones here is this full sort of black version with that skeletonized smoky dial, which looks awesome. And the green one looks quite funky as well. So we're back at the salmon. So we scroll down to the Swiss Quartz. And this is the 40mm and the 36mm option, but you need to look at the tick boxes here to see what's available in what. So yeah, again, just numerous different options: gold, blue, bicolor, green, green gold, green bronze. The ice blue looks particularly great. Salmon and bronze or rose gold, that looks interesting. This in a 36mm pink and gold, lovely for a female. And then yeah, this was it turquoise with the black date wheel on the quartz. So just lots of options. And as I said, this video is into the early bird, so you may have something which is sold out. So the 40mm automatic venturing is really sold out, but you do have quite a lot of others still available. So this is where you can actually purchase it. The pre-order will be available for shipping in December to January, which isn't bad, guys, considering it's only it's nearly December now. So they do have the production sorted, really, so you won't have to wait too long. I'm currently waiting for a watch from Clemens, which is going to be here in March 2024. So yeah, a lot of really great options. Yeah, it's just so much to go through, and you've got a lot of choice, which sometimes does make the choice harder. You might end up getting a couple if you like this watch that much. So let's go back to the watch now. I've shown you all the variants available. So let's talk about prices. As I said, these are incredibly well priced, and I don't know how they've made them so cheap. So if we look at RRP, so for the NH35 on the bracelet, it's $300 RRP, which is cheap enough as it is, right? That's just around £240, 250 quid. With the NH70 or the NH72 on bracelet is $250, and the Swiss quartz with the bracelet is $240. Stupid money, stupidly cheap. And the Swiss quartz with the silicon is $163. Now, when we look at the early bird, that further reduces the price of these watches. So on the NH35, early bird is $250 US. NH70, NH72 is $289 US. Swiss quartz with the bracelet is $195, and the Swiss quartz with the silicon is $130. So the pricing is extremely competitive, particularly for the quality that you can see here, the things I'm showing you. It's something that I don't think many brands can actually compete with. So this, for me, is definitely a no-brainer. So regarding the sizing of the watch before I put it on wrist, these are pin and collar, and unfortunately, guys, say what you want about me or call me out on it, I just could not be bothered to size this up. It's just not in me today. Pin and collar, I can't be asked to fight with this watch, and I've got another one to fight with as well. So I left them alone and I put them on the wrist. But I put them on wrist for long enough time for me to get a correct sort of analysis. Obviously, it's not going to be like 100% size from a wrist and wearing it around the day or two, but I can give you the best advice I can. So on wrist with this 40mm, it sits really well. It's got awesome presence on wrist. The sizing is great. 43 overall, does not really matter. The watch also sits very close to the wrist, even though you've got a slightly protruding case back. But if you went for the quartz, of course, that would sit even better on the wrist. The second link on these integrated links sits very close to wrist also, so it's not a problem that this is 50mm lug to lug. I've got a 6.5-inch wrist, so it seems to fit really well. The second link touches the wrist, that's what I look at. With the sizing, as I said, Revelot will include half links, so that will also assist in getting the right fit. But on wrist, I was very impressed with it. The presence is noticeable and it does wear really nice, and I'm impressed with how good it wears actually for a 40 or a 43mm watch. In comparison to the 37mm, it's a lot smaller. Definitely you notice that on wrist, and in some angles it looks just too small because the dial is a lot smaller, obviously. But if you take the whole case into consideration, it's also a nice size for guys that prefer much smaller watches. It's also great for the ladies. Of course, it's a watch that will sit much better on their wrist as well. And if you look at them side by side, you can really see the difference in size. Both watches have good presence. They are very comfortable. There's no sharp edges. I did get a bit of hair pulling due to the bracelet links, but I think with these style of links, it is unavoidable. They sit very close to the between each other, so it might catch a few hairs here or there. But overall, it still stands what I say. Very comfortable on wrist. I like the presence. It wears really well. I love the light play you get from all these brushed and polished different finishes on the watch case, and it's something incredible Revelot have done. Now, moving on to to summarize about Revelot, and I'm blown away slightly because if you guys don't know, I am starting my own watch brand. I've done a separate video on that, and one thing that you do know is about the variation. Variation kills cost. So for Revelot to give us 3 different movement options plus a quartz option, giving us 3 different dial options, giving us steel cases, bicolor cases, and their PVD cases, And the price that they've given this at, I just don't know how they've done it. This is crazy value for money. And I have to take my hat off to Kevin. You've given just so much. Now, it's not always great to have so much choice because it does spoil you. You end up taking very long time to decide. But what he has given is amazing. Now, aside from that, the actual quality of the product, the quality of the watches in hand, it's in front of you guys. And you know me, I don't mince my words. I don't mess around. I'll tell you how it is. This is finished really well. It's probably the best watch of this style that I've held in my hands. It's finished impeccably, and when I put the price into comparison, it's definitely a no-brainer. The quality of the dials, the quality of the handset, the hour markers is stunning. And even if you don't like the Roman numerals, if you went for a gear shade dial, you can have the batons, which is just much nicer to look at. So I am just gobsmacked, and Kevin, Revelot team, hats off, man. So between your models, I think the Hex Mariner was the best one, and these follow very close to the Hex Mariner. Very significant release, and yeah, I wish them all the best with this. Now, before we finish off, I did say I will mention all the things that they want to improve on. So here goes. They will increase the lume on the chapter ring to make it just a bit more brighter. I don't think that's necessary because, again, this is not a watch for lume, but the fact that they're doing that is always a bonus. Now, the date on the quartz one, that will be a black date wheel, which I think white's okay because it does stand out, but obviously black will be appreciated. It'll match the darkened indices a bit more. And of course, as I mentioned, the half links will be introduced on the 40mm version. So what more could you ask for? They've identified, I think, everything they could have. I wish them the best of luck. You can see when you go on the website, there's a couple of models already sold out, and I couldn't get this review out in time because I wasn't really feeling well, and I still got after effects of that. But yeah, just super impressive. Thanks to Kevin and Revelot team for sending these out to me. I really enjoyed making this review because it's just amazing what they've done. So that's it for me today, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section as always, and I will see you on the next video.